Welcome back. Comments?
We were just talking about the idea of being true to what? Being true to what? Playing true to what?
That's my question. Yeah, I'm listening for an answer. I just asked that. Yeah, being true to what?
Yeah, I guess depending on one's...
Yeah, if you're a musician, what are you needing to be true to?
Some people want to be true to the tradition of jazz. You know, you have the Wynton Marsalis camp. You know, they want to revere Louis Armstrong and the old cats and be really true to that.
You mean what was? I want to be true to what was. Be true to the cadavers.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad, right?
Be more like true to spirit, or true to one's creative potential, or something along those lines.
Yeah, if you have a decent perception of that, or true perception of what that could be in your own case,
Sure.
yeah, it might be worth looking into. So what is your own potential in your case?
I mean, I think that the moment determines that.
So your potential is then subject to being the effect of a moment then? Yeah.
Maybe not quite.
Okay. Well, that's the question, see. That's the inquiry. That is a dharmic device issue, but it also applies to musicians. Because the basis of music is, to a certain degree, about something comparable in the Dharma to what meditation is about. Not that I recommend it, or for it, or against it, or whatever. But music is an opportunity to give your attention to a piece of music or something you hear inside you, if you can hear anything inside you, so to speak, whatever that means. You already have to know what I'm talking about to understand what is being said. So you have to be able to hear something or feel it, like pregnance. Right? You have to feel pregnant. Something in you is forming, growing or something, and you hear it. It's an emotionally perceivable item of sorts, right? Sensation, perception, or let's say composition, or melody. And you have to somehow collapse the space between you and that thing. So you can be the melody, so you can be what it is. In the Dharma, you have to be what you're trying to realize. Rather than think of it as an object outside of you or apart from you, you have to somehow or other collapse the perception of space and distance. And same with the music, This is true of many musicians who cross my path asking questions that, make real to me that they're in the process of closing the gap between their ideal, what they imagine themselves to be or project themselves to be, and what they hear, and where they're at, to collapse that. So then that's the big question: how do you collapse? How can you be what it is you're trying to be? We can simply say, well, through practice. Another aspect of the practice then would be to not feel you're distant from it. You're, not far from it. It's not somewhere else. Come on. Okay, because everyone is the potential of the creative. Now, it's easy to accept theoretically, but to put into practice factually or actually it's a question mark. Yeah, it's a big one. So we need to have an understanding that we already know what it is we need to do, we need to be, and we are, say, close to what it is. Whether you want to be a musical hero or a spiritual hero, you have to have a strong sense of identification with that, in a sense. Now, in the Dharma traditions, identification is a problem because it's usually based upon the, let's say, the mechanics of self-limitation. Here we're not talking about that. What we do is bring it a little bit closer to us as musicians. No, we can hear it already. So hearing it is very important. Being able to hear it and being able to do it. Close the gap. Play it or sing it. And maybe that's still superficial relative to what we really need to do, which is to be what the music is. Yeah. It's a bit harder to attain that. How can you be the music that's beyond just what you hear? Mm-hmm. Comment? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The question is, do you have to use your image? Well, to some degree. Remember, if you are the Buddha, are you using image, or are you using less than image to come to terms with what that is, or what it could be for you, or what it needs to be for your practice? So then it becomes to, let's say, an issue of seeing. What do you mean by the Buddha? Music, the sound. Is it something outside of you? Is it something in you that you need to bring up? See? Is it something that does arise of itself and you need to bring up and use it in a certain way? So is that ego building or not? Is a good question. That's what you're asking. Is the manifestation of music ego building? It could be. It could be done with a lot of egoic attachment and ambition and desire and separation. Or it can be done with a feeling of already accomplished integration. That it's just something you do. And you need to do more of in a certain way without thinking about it, without imaging it. Can you get to that place where you can bring it about without thinking about it and imaging yourself as separate from what that process is? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you? I mean, we've spent 8 years together asking the question, how do you do that? And your answer has been many things.
And it will be another thing tonight, right? And we'll begin first with an openness to what it is being already an integral part of your nature. And that's why I use the term bring it up, not create it. Bring it up. So, not try to own it as a thing, but bring up what it already is in you. Just more intuitively correct. For the moment, that's the answer. Maybe closing the gap in the case of those who are here. Mm-hmm. 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 And in all cases, for the student, what are they ready to perceive, even if they hear it? What are they ready to act on, even if they hear it, theoretically? So, what are they ready to do beyond the theoretical side of it, which is the easiest side? Talk side about, right? What are we talking about? Right? How do you put it into practice? Right.
So then it would be, it's one thing to have the vision, but then to actually
You have to
put
be
it to
it.
practice and then
You have to be it.
get to that,
You have to be it. You have to have that kind of openness to knowing where you be it. Knowing how you be it. That means some doing has to show up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about rehearsing. I'm talking about realizing. Mm-hmm. Or cognizing first, maybe. Right? Feeling it, knowing it's part of you, and you want to manifest it. So it's up to the individual to take that and use it. And it is as simple as saying, well, what piece do you hear that you can play right now? Can you hear a piece you can play right now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Piece.
No.
Um,
Are we now calling upon the fact of familiarity with the piece? Is it a memory? Or are you hearing something other than a memory? Right? Are you hearing your present condition, which is very much part of this process of being the creative?
So would you say there's a certain or connection with spontaneity or connection with letting what's of the moment arise?
Both.
Yeah,
Both.
Because I guess the mind can just go to, whatever song pops in or, thing that
That's
you
a starting
practice.
point.
Yeah, that's
Not just the song that pops in, because then that's outside of you,
right.
but what you hear.
Right.
What can you hear right now?
Mm.
You could express or do or say or play. So, would that be a memory, or would that be something true to this moment in your case? That's how I play in the moment. For me, it's not a theory. It's something to think about, to try to collapse into. Because what this is, anyone can do. Maybe more people should do. It takes an attitude of openness and a sense of reality. Comment?
What do you mean by reality?
But it's real to you, that it can be done. So when you talk to a scientist and they say, well, this is what I'm seeing in this section of outer space. From his level of perception, in terms of the mechanics that are functioning in his brain relative to the astrophysics, right, that he's concerned about, or using to apply what he knows from the abstract to the, or like for the musician, hearing the composition and then manifesting it. It's not a big gap, it's a matter of doing that, being open to doing that. In other words, what we're talking about is common functioning of the intelligence of creating and manifesting from inside out. The true creative is not outside you. You can see it in, working everywhere. It's not egoic in nature, particularly, but there are a lot of egos, taking, I guess you might say, ownership of what it is, and they feel it is who they are, in a sense. They're egos. It is their image, their self-programming. Like they're living the body. They're alive because they choose to be alive. To agree? To a real point. That may be true up to a point. And that becomes a similar question. What creates? Right. What you need to hear for you in music. Again, is it memory? Is it theory? Is it projection? Or is it truth in your case? Opening to whatever is one's feelings is part of the process. Depends on what it is that you're perceiving that you want to manifest. It may have a feeling base, it may have a conceptual base, it may have an experiential base, maybe something that you're remembering that just happened. And you're pregnant with the feeling. You're pregnant with the mood. And you have to release it. And this is part of it. So you use the word spontaneity. Well, that's a word. But this here then is more than that. This is more than spontaneous. Say, eruption or expulsion. It's creative expression. Comment.
So would you say it's about finding a place inside you to work from?
Not necessarily. How do you play drums?
Well, I mean, kind of like what you said, I might either work on something conceptually, or I might just do something by feeling in the moment.
Do you play drums by virtue of having an impulse to play? What?
Yeah.
You feel something. You're not feeling necessarily pregnant, but you might feel pregnant.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It might be existing music that you hear that moves you in that way. It makes you pregnant. So you have to play. You feel the urgency. So, and you know if you put your hands on the drum, something's going to happen. You have confidence in that because you've done it before. Right? And you know you're going to blow. You don't know what you're going to blow, but you don't care. True, same thing. Here. The difference is we're talking about something that you're not actually initially doing, but you imagine what it is. It's in you. But you don't know what it's going to sound like because you don't know exactly what it is because you haven't expressed it yet. Or it hasn't expressed itself in that moment relative to that pregnancy, whatever it is. Sometimes such a, let's say, movement is solved by way of screaming. And you release the tension through screaming or crying or laughing or some shouting or something. Talking maybe, yelling. And then you feel you calm down. That releases the pressure. We're talking about creative tension now. The mechanics of creative tension.
Is all tension creative?
Yeah, you can make it creative. Does all wood burn?
Depends on.
Yeah, it burns. Right, it burns. We think so. You're physicists, right? Wood burns. So we're talking about creative tension. Yeah, of course, you have to create the creative side of the tension, right? Our bodies are tension processing machines, right? At this level, mental level, emotional level, astral psychic levels, etheric levels, physical level, no doubt. Right? We have to breathe somehow. That's the exhalation aspect of the nature of the creative, I guess, cycle. The exhale, giving birth, release. And ultimately, when we get to a deeper state of practice, everything is released. See, it's called auto releasement. Zero, holding back. If you can get to that point, you can feel that point when I'm saying it. Auto releasement in the moment. That puts you into the mode of hearing beyond hearing. Not a trick, it's a state of listening and attention. So then the idea is, at what point do you listen to the environment? At what point do you listen to what needs to come out beyond your memory? Most importantly in the conversation is your openness to that process as it applies or pertains to you as a musician. whether that includes your vocalization or your physical performing on one or another instruments. The urge is the same. The movement to play, to express, to manifest, to enjoy, to hear, or to create, either way. You.
Can you talk about the idea of commitment relative to this type of practice?
Commitment
Yeah.
to the practice, does it
Yeah.
help? My question to you is, does it help
Right.
to be committed to the practice? Would it help for you to be committed to a practice?
It seems like there are lots of different qualities within the commitment idea, some of which are not necessarily productive, but they might be, and it seems like
In other words, you know what you need to commit to, when you should know what you need to commit to. So it's not analysis. We're not talking about analysis, really. I mean, we can utilize the function of analysis to play with the idea, work with the idea, but not grasp the idea exactly, because that takes more than analysis. That might take understanding. That might take a level of relaxed breathing in and out instead of analysis, right? Tension, thoughtful tension. Trying to figure it out. There's nothing to figure out. If you're at the figuring it out stage, then we're not talking about the same thing. This is beyond figuring it out. This is easy breathing applied to music and self-expression. With the, let's say, basis of conscious opening to deeper states of the same process. Anyone can do it, everyone can apply it to their dancing, the painting, whatever. Why? Because it deals with your head. Your self-imaging, mental functioning. And how it is working with feeling and with action. Visualization sometimes helps. We're not talking about imaging necessarily, not self-imaging, particularly. Comment.
So then, should the practice of one's art or creative expression, that should be an easy breathing practice in a sense? Is that like as easy?
It could
breathing,
be.
As easy as
Yeah,
breathing?
it doesn't necessarily have to be what anybody's saying, but it could be. That is open, relaxed. When the mind and the body are relaxed, it does open to what it can't perceive when it's closed and tense, okay, and full of toxic feeling. So relax. It's recommended by all the masters of all the arts and sciences as a good place to come back to and recover as much as possible. Breathe, start over, refresh. All of this is part of it. Yeah, you want to enable yourself to not get caught up in tension as product. Say, maybe part of the process, but not as product. See, the beauty is that no one knows for sure. But because no one knows for sure, it can arise. When no one knows for sure, it's real. Who knows? Openness, relaxed openness. I could never know that. Boom! All of a sudden, you're doing what it is. I couldn't do it. Well, you have to do it. If it's with you, then you have to do it. So, whatever it takes. Sometimes the shock is what's necessary. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's receptivity. And feeling good about it, having a good feeling about it. And I can do this. I haven't done it yet, but it's possible to do it. So we're talking about the possibility here. and that reaches over to potential. Is it necessary to do it? And that's a conscious, unconscious question. Well, you have to do what's needed. And sometimes that's the easiest thing that comes to you, is what you need, not so much what you want. Often what you want doesn't cut it. What you need is what happens. And you have to learn to accept that. And then you need to work with that. You have to create with that. Right? In the Dharma teachings, you have to work with yourself. That means whatever you're showing up as, which is not necessarily true of the limit of your ability. It's a prop. It's how you are for the moment. Could you be more later? Under other conditions. Of course. Could you be in the environment where it's very conducive to do certain things, whereas if you are not in that environment, it might be very difficult to do certain things. So sometimes it's that way. We're not talking about cause specific, but as a cosmic event, that could be the condition. When everything is right, boom, it happens, so to speak. It's much easier for some. Comment. The need for something, which we have to be very specific about what that means. So what does need mean? Right? So you need to breathe, you need to sleep. If you try to resist those things, you find a lot of struggle. Panic. So you need to know what you need, or what is needed at the level of what it is you're trying to accomplish. If it's music, then you have to be open to the music. You have to work with it a little bit, depending on what it is. Everyone is uniquely different, obviously. They need for what? What kind of music? What level of playing do they need? Sometimes that level of playing requires many lifetimes before they can even scratch the surface of what it is. I'm talking about classical virtuosos or whatever, jazz virtuosos. Well, people with exceptional fluency of what they do is like nothing. But then there's not fire in it. There may be no fire in it. There's not anything, but it's so easy. It's without fire, without passion, right? Without bliss. No bliss. No blisters. Right? You gotta have some blisters in there. Openness is needed. You need to be open to being creative. You need to be open to what comes with being creative. So there are some people who want to be creative, but they're not really open to what comes with the creative. So they're not going to be creative because they're not really open to the other side of the positive impression of being creative, right? Well, In other words, you have to pay for your creativity in some way. You have to be willing to give something up. See? What does it require of us? Sometimes it's painful discipline as musicians. See? Frustration. Bad dreams, nightmares. Right? Tension in the midst of relations. Right? It can be very complicating. Life can be, and it's often. So when you want something, you have to pay for it. So maybe pain is required and suffering is required as part of your payment for your moment of joy and bliss on the stage or in the movie or on TV or at the Grammys or whatever it is you fantasize you need for yourself. What is the payment? See? What is the payment for falling in love with somebody who's really a mystery to you, and you find out too late what the payment is? But we're open to that because we're enjoying whatever it is, right? And we just go with that. It's just juicy fruit, right? Juicy fruit. And what's the payment for it? We have to see in time what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's enjoyment. See, the payment for enjoyment is sometimes its opposite, and that's pain in some way or other. Not because I say so, just understand your own practice. That's the balance. Love and hate balance, duality is a karmic process. So you see it go from one side to the next side, right? Pendulum swings this way, and because it's a pendulum, it swings the other way equally. Boom. We have these oscillations, and sometimes in our brains they're very rapid oscillations. So depending on the person and their spiritual evolvement or evolution or unfoldment, it could be rapid, it could be taking a long time. Comment now?
Mm. So then it's up to the individual to decide.
Not exactly, but it is an individual issue, yes. Because sometimes the individual wants it already. Ages ago, they wanted the award or the reward or the status.
Right.
Years ago, but they weren't ready. Because to be ready means everything has to be ready, in fact. And it's a cosmic situation. Then we have to go to the mystical and say, is the heart ready for you to have what it is you desire or what you want? Is the heart ready for you to experience that? Is the universe ready? Could be not ready for you. Say, well, you're ready, perfect, man. The best you can be, playing or whatever. At your peak, right? Or even beyond your peak, you're ridiculously qualified, absurdly, right? And you're so like in bliss because of your power, but there's nobody there. Poor person. Nobody's there to dig it. Right? Your best performance is alone. Right? You are your best audience in that moment. Right? Happens. I hear these things. I know these things. So. Comment?
And there can be a fear too of actually encountering what creativity might bring up in terms of situations.
That's what I was talking about. Who's ready for the payment?
Yeah.
Because it's intuitive. So okay, now I'm having all this moolah for playing this, and what does that mean? What people have an instinct about that. So, too much goodness, right? Too much happiness, too much money, right? Sometimes that's the scales working for balance, towards the balance. Person wins a championship in a sport, and a parent or somebody dies right after that. So you up and then down. So whoa. Or just before they do it, and they fight for the championship or whatever, or they go for the gold, let's say, at a point where they feel they owe it to the person who passed, and so on. So these are things that are happening psychically in everyone's little universe. All right, but we don't think about it until we have a situation where that is the focus, and then all of that comes up and we start seeing inside rather than from the outside of appearance. You start seeing inside in terms of the existing karmic mechanisms that play in your case. Interfering or interrupting a person's cycle of action is very risky. You have to take what comes with that. Even if you're talking about saving your child from doing themselves in, you got to take what comes with it. But your instincts as a parent are going to be that you have to stop them no matter what. But you may have also the respect of their individual nature to tolerate it up to a point if you can. Mhm. 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 And an interesting scenario is combat, let's say. Right? You have friends there. Right? And you're there to kill and save your friends from being killed, if you can. Very awkward situation to be in. And the whole thing is like crazy. It's all about killing. Right? Nothing you can do about it because you're there. You're there to die. And you're there to take the bullet or whatever's coming your way, and you have to deal with it. See? And medics, right, they're in the field to prevent the soldiers from dying. Sometimes they step outside of their own jurisdiction of sorts and will heal the enemy. Sometimes they would do that, depending on the individual. But in every case, you take on the karma of the person. You have to be ready to do that. Sometimes in an emergency situation, like in the case of first responders, you have to take what comes with your impulsiveness. You have to be willing to give it up. And this is part of it. But you have a sense that there's an exchange somewhere. You go in the fire, you know you can die and just wind up there as fatality. You know that. But you do it anyway. See? So you have to override certain instincts, in some cases, to save yourself or your loved ones. And then you happily take what comes with it. See? And we shouldn't doubt that there are those situations where some people were saved and they didn't want to be saved because they didn't want to be here. And then when you know those people, could be a family member, and they say, "Why did you save me? I didn't want to be here. I've already had this life." So, and then you have to consider whether or not they have a right to take their own life. See? And if it's not God telling them to take their life or something like that, it's hard to figure that out. See? You don't know if it's good or it's bad. See? Because we're not in their shoes, so it's really hard to make certain decisions, right? Because we're not in that person's shoes. You can give general guidelines for people, no doubt, and often those general guidelines are taken with a grain of salt or with all due respect, but not to expect anybody to believe what you're saying or doing, particularly. Yeah. But your good wishes help people. Your kindness does help and go far to create good karma. So you have to ask if the lamas are going to let you do that, or what are the lama going to do when you're doing whatever you're doing? See, what do they do? Are they free to intervene? Do they risk having themselves done in by someone who has bad intention? See, or do they just let it be? Good question. You have to trust, I'm going to use this term, your own heart on this. See? It's very easy for people to intervene or interfere or interrupt when it comes to someone close to you. That's what you do. It's instinctual. And you feel it's the right thing, and most people will agree it's the right thing to do. So you take what comes with your impulse to save. You just do it. No one says it's good or bad or right or wrong. You have to take what comes with it. It could be some glorification, heroism, declaration of being a hero or something, or disgrace. Depends. You have to be willing to take it. So, when I was younger, a long time ago, let's say 50 years or so ago, I had an experience that turned into a haunting. It wasn't good or bad. It's just up for, it's up for grabs. Depends on how you see it. I won't get into details because they're a little gruesome, but yeah. the haunting. And it was really about what we're talking about. Okay, well, you were there, you interrupted, or you were there, you're here, so, you know, I have to bug you. What were you doing there if you didn't want me to bug you? Spooky. Right. Comment?
So, yeah, I mean,
So it's not only the things that you're doing that hold you back, it's the things you've done as much, right, that you're not accounting for, that cause you pause, cause you hesitation, confusion, and right, slow momentum, apprehension, precaution. Yeah, apprehension. It could be said that the clarity that arises in dangerous situations is enlightenment. That is enlightenment. That's it. When you see and you know. That's it. A glimpse. Enlightenment. So when you are moved from the heart at that level, to say something in a situation that shocks someone or other into listening, that could be life-saving. But it has to come from a hot place. It can't just be, it's got to come from a deeper place to have a deeper effect. You have to be at that point of heartbreak, maybe, urgency, emergency. So if you communicate with that kind of power, that can have its own effect. Yeah. Not just anger, but something deeper. Compassion. You can say, bro, you have no idea how much I love you, and I'm going to miss you if anything happens to you. You have no idea how much suffering I'm going to experience from that. Think about it, bro. You're tripping, right? When the heart opens, in fact, with intensity, which happens on rare occasions, it could happen more often than not, in some cases. A certain kind of power accompanies that. And it's similar to the power in the case of a tragedy. Right? And when self-image dissolves, self-limitation, selfishness, anything disappears. And everyone shares this heart presence. So I think in the dharmas of the holy ones, they would rather beings relate that way. As a matter of fact, you know. That has a little bit of pull towards itself, which means, as an electromagnetic force, it can pull someone in closer to your heartache, right, or love presence. So compassionate, that means free to let him do whatever he wants to do, but feeling it very intensely. So, in the form of love. It's loving. Like a mother loves a child, but it's got to let it go. It loves with all its heart, but it has to let it go and grow up. Right? Sometimes with its the heart in the throat, man. Concerned that something's going to happen. And then what happens is, it's a breakdown. So that's the nature of the heart sometimes. Coming. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So ordinarily, we live in a life of having to solve problems. Right? Survival mode, as it's called, more or less. And that's the world of neuroses, for the most part, for people. So, anxiety, stress, not having enough, always struggling to have more, to do more, to presumably make life easier, see, better, and so on. So you work towards happiness. So if you're working, you're happy. If you're not working, you're unhappy. That kind of system. Logic, machinery, way, path, whatever. When people come into this atmosphere of understanding, apart from the ordinary, say, stresses of suffering, they enter a plane of solution, say, and wisdom, where there is, in fact, a radical point of view, which is no question and no answer. Mm-hmm. That's what rules here. No real question, no answer. Everything else is relative to itself. Questions are relative to answers. Answers are relative to questions, and so on. It's its own world, say, of thought. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, you have the world of what we call soulfulness, Param Atma. I've mentioned this before, probably. Super soul. No self, no thought, no mind, no body, no world, no universe, nothing. To suffer. No self, no other, to suffer. Mm-hmm. Nothing in the way, actually, nothing in the way. Go to sleep at night, boom, perfection. Deep sleep, perfection. Right, God. Mm. No problems. Perfect rest. Deep sleep. Space. Doesn't disappear. It's here. It's now. Need to know it, to turn to it, and feel it as solution. Everyone's solution. It's not personal, it's the impersonal deep sleep state. Ever present. Always here, already gone. So coming into this, even for a few moments at a time, you take that with you. That changes your world. Taking this presence of radiant solution, the solution of lightness, helps heal you and your people. Good karma. Not everyone can come here, and despite the solutionary life, or solutional life, call it that, there's such a word, not everyone is ready to resonate with it and see it as useful to themselves. It's just another view. So, because you're involved in the music and you understand that process, a sound manifestation from the emotions of the deep state, the heart, right, sound, heart fire sound. You see, this is part of a bigger solution, it's a deeper solution. It's universal application. Say, well, this whole thing is the Dhamma. I say, well, there's only the Dhamma. And the Dhamma says there's no question, no answer. Okay. Peace. Just peace. Already. Peace. Everything else, and come back to peace already here. And that's what you take with you. The fact of that, relative to your own karma, your own situation, your own family, and your own world. This is free peace. We have our relative stresses here because we're dealing with the material universe. So things break, things have to be fixed, and so on and so forth. Ordinary world here. Basis, much more solution. No question, no answer. Yeah. Openness to what needs to be done, it gets done. Satsang means being in, for the moment, true relationship. Sat, true sang, community, circle of people, at peace, abiding in practice. Whether it's one school, another school, it's the practice of openness and peacefulness already. Not avoiding problems, dealing with problems from that, through that, for that.